Looked on the agenda and seen a spot reserved for second speaker for Tim Barth. And I know y'all are all excited to hear my speech today. And then you look and say, well, I'm the second evaluator. And I figured, hey, who better to eulogize me than me? But really? But actually, we had a guest from another club that wanted to do a speech today. He's performed his speech, and he wanted to tape it. And actually, that guest is Barth. Actually, Phil, in 2011, was a finalist in the Toastmasters World Championship. So I'm really looking forward to his speech today. And additionally, once upon a time, he says, he won $32,000 on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. I asked him if I could borrow some money. Then I got to thinking, what was the question that prevented him from getting $1 million? So let me see what he wrote down. The term mentor comes from Greek mythology. Mentor was friend and trusted advisor to whom? Achilles, Hercules, what's that other one? Odysseus
and Oedipus.
Oedipus. Anybody know the answer?
Repeat the question again, sorry.
The term mentor comes from Greek mythology. Mentor was friend and trusted advisor to whom? Which one of those four persons? In Greek mythology. Do you know the
Hercules,
answer?
C.
Odysseus.
Odysseus. Very good.
My phone friend didn't know either. It's okay.
In 2013, Phil finally figured out how he managed to pull out these 2 feet, thanks to a piece of technology about the size, he says, of a cockroach. His story will help you as you set your 2014 goals and maybe New Year's resolutions. So please welcome Phil Barth for his speech, Fit, Bit, Bet.
Let me start by saying I'm not the world's greatest at trivia, nor am I the world's greatest speaker. I wasn't born either of those things. In fact, when I was born, I couldn't even speak. But I managed to get on the game show Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and I managed to make it to the finals of the World Championship of Public Speaking. The thing of it was, I didn't really know until this year how I managed to pull those things off. But I finally learned my lesson based on a piece of technology, like we said, no bigger than a cockroach, a piece that I carry along with me at all times, a Fitbit. Anybody familiar with a Fitbit? A Fitbit is a glorified electronic pedometer, but it's so much more. You can see right now 2,022 steps. I keep it on me when I'm speaking because I walk and I want the steps. I bought my Fitbit in June as a way to hopefully get me to exercise more, as a way to hopefully make me lose weight. Now, I had pedometers before, and if anybody has a pedometer, what's the goal in steps that you should get with a pedometer? 10,000. 10,000 steps. I'd had pedometers, I wound up throwing them out. They never seemed to work for me. I will tell you, since June, when I bought this Fitbit, there's been exactly one day that I wore the Fitbit and did not get 10,000 steps. And that was a day on a canoe trip. You don't want to get your 10,000 steps when you're in a canoe. One day. But I didn't realize exactly why, other than I just couldn't stand to not have 10,000 steps. But then I started thinking about the Fitbit. And when you get a Fitbit, what it does is it immediately gets you an account out on the internet. And the next thing it does is it says, hey, why don't I check out if any of your friends have a Fitbit? So it did. And it found my friend Mark in Memphis. Mark and I have worked together for a number of years. And we've always had kind of these running bets and competitions. Mark left for Memphis 10 years ago. And in that time, we've had a variety of bets about everything, always trying to one-up the other. And up until the time I got my Fitbit, the grand total of money that had exchanged hands between the two of us was 0. because we always double down the bet. You win, then Mark wins, and it goes back and forth. Well, when I got my Fitbit, I immediately wanted to one-up Mark, even though I didn't know there'd be a bet involved at the time. So I hooked up and said, yeah, I'll be Mark's Fitbit friend. Well, Mark's getting 3,000 steps a day. I'm blowing him away. And then Mark started getting up to about 7,000 steps. At which point, I got an email from him. He said, why don't we make it interesting? $1 a week was the bet. Most steps win. Well, I'm 3,000 to 4,000 steps ahead of the guy. I'm thinking, of course I'll take $52 a year. We're going to have a one-year bet. I'll win all the weeks, get $52 and buy myself something nice. So I took the bet. And then Mark joined a health club. And all of a sudden Mark went to 10,000, 10,500 steps. So my new goal became 11,000 steps. And we went back and forth and back and forth. I'm happy to tell you that as of today, 16 weeks into the bet, the balance is 0. We've each won 8 weeks. But we've had so much fun doing it that we've agreed, instead of just a one-year bet, it's a lifetime bet. The bet will end when one of us dies. Mark is about 10 years older than me, so I'm probably going to have to go to his funeral, and as I eulogize him, I will then have to go and settle up with his widow. This could be a nice donation from me, or it could potentially, if I'm ahead, be a very delicate conversation that we have to have. I've warned my wife the same thing, that if Mark happens to outlive me, she said, I'm not giving him $5. So everything was going great on my Fitbit, 10,000 steps a day. Still hadn't figured out the secret to the Fitbit per se, until one day, a Sunday, I had to leave for Memphis. Now I had gotten some yard work done before, and I was already at 10,000 steps before I left for Memphis. I got to the airport, and of course I walk in, and they said, I get through security, I don't mind walking in the line, and they said, the escalators are down, no problem, I'll walk down the escalators, it's extra steps. And then I'm walking through past the A and B buses, or the trains rather. I, of course, skipped the train stop on my way to the B terminal, and I'm walking through, I'm thinking, yeah, I gotta be closing in on 15,000 steps. So let me check. And at that point, I realized I had left my Fitbit on the charger at home. Well, 2 thoughts immediately went through my mind. Number 1, do I have time to drive back? No, I don't. The second thought was, I'm getting on the train. I immediately stopped walking. I stood on the train. I'm not walking anymore. I don't have my Fitbit. I got up at the B terminal. I took the escalator up, and I was right there, gate B12. I said, good, I don't have to walk. They said, your flight's been moved to B39. So I complained the whole way out to B39. I complained all the way out the B concourse in Memphis. If you've been to Memphis, they have this giant walkway to get to your rental car. I complained about half the way there as I was riding the moving sidewalk, and then I thought, why? Was walking suddenly not good for me because I wasn't wearing a Fitbit? Well, of course not. So what made me go for 10,000 steps day after day, and what made me shut down immediately when my Fitbit wasn't there? And that's when I came on the answer. The answer is something I like to call forced accountability. When I made that bet with Mark Lehman, it wasn't about the dollar. It was about holding him accountable and him holding me accountable for 10,000 steps a day or more. And then I thought back to 2011, when I was in the finals of the World Championship of Public Speaking. I thought to when I won the district contest. And the first thing I did was I went to people at that conference and said, I want to speak at your club. I want to speak at your club. I want to speak at your club. Sure, I needed the practice, but it was more than that. I wanted to be held accountable by all those Toastmasters. And then I thought back to 2002, when I told everybody, I'm auditioning for Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. I mean, to the point where people were going, hey, really? But all of my friends knew, all of my family knew, I want to be on that game show. And the reason I did it was the same reason I linked up with Mark Lehman on Fitbit. Because I know without forced accountability, there's going to be a day when I don't want to walk. There could be a day when I don't want to talk. And there could have been a day that I didn't want to go to Cleveland, Ohio for an audition for Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, my third audition, the one that got me on the show. But as much as I might be willing to let myself take a break, I don't want to let my friends down. I don't want to let the Mark Lehman down. I don't want to let the clubs down. And so I push through. So as you're looking at your goals for the upcoming year, if you're like we are at International Paper, you're going through your goals for 2014 right now, or you might have already done it. And then you're going to, and then coming in another couple of weeks will be the dreaded New Year's resolutions. If you really, really want to keep your New Year's resolutions, let people know what they are. Tell your family. Tell a friend. And you'll have a lot better chance of success in 2014.